I'm gonna teach you how to actually loop properly in Fight by Night, or how to manage your stamina. I feel like a lot of people don't like stamina in this game, but you know, it is what it is. It's part of the game. Instead of whining about it, I'm actually teach you how to take advantage of the stamina bar so you can win more games. This is probably the most crucial thing. You want to just toggle your stamina into the center in the gameplay settings. This just makes it so you don't have to constantly avert your eyes to the corner, right? And you can just focus on your pathing while also looking at your stamina bar. Next is barricading doors. There's just a couple fundamentals that you should understand before you do any kind of looping. The easiest way to put it is just simply an area that gives you a free chance of recovering your stamina, because that's how you got away, right? The way to do that is just using the barricade doors, or using circles, loops where you both have to run out of stamina. You know what I mean? Here are just some good examples of good loops. They either just have a bunch of barricades, or they're long enough so that a killer and you are both on cooldown, and you basically have a chance to recover your stamina. And I know a lot of you guys know this already, but for the people that don't, when you barricade once, you want to let go after the killer hits it. If you hold on to it too long, the door breaks down, you get knocked out, and that's a free hit for the killer. And sometimes the game is pretty clunky, so you might even get hit twice in that same stun animation. So always let go of the door after the first hit. What you should do after is find either a different barricade or find a different loop. Also, once you let go of the barricade, it stuns the killer in front of it for like a second, I think. So you can also just run past them if you're in like a dead end. I know a lot of people don't actually know that. So yeah, Pizzeria is by far the easiest for survivors to loop, just because of how small the map is and how packed it is full of loops. I think it's kind of stupid, but hey. So the first areas you can kind of just loop are these dining tables out in the front. It's pretty simple, just run across, hug it as tight as possible. That goes for any loops. Be careful though, if you're versing a Nard or Springtrap, they can't just throw ranged attacks at you. The ball pit loop is pretty decent as well, but you just gotta be careful of the skinny ramp. I don't know how big the hitbox for that is, so sometimes you might just fall off before you reach the ball pit, and that might just screw you over, so be careful. Then there's the arcade loop. It has like a single door on top. What makes this room kind of broken is just because it leads into a bunch of other looping areas. Once you let go of the door, you can either go to the security guard room, which has that metal door. I don't know how many swings it takes. I don't know if you can break it, to be honest, but you have that. Or you can run straight across into the kitchen with the two single doors, right? I think it is such a broken room. Moving on, it's the kitchen loop. It's just such a simple, effective loop. Two single doors, you hold on to it. Once the killer swings once on it, you move on to the second door. Easy peasy, right? Same thing with the security guard doors. The only downside is it's a narrow hallway, so if you're being chased by a Nard, they might be able to grab you before you reach that door. But honestly, if you're looking back and if you're anticipating it, super easy to dodge anyway. But yeah, once you get into the security door, there's not really much the killer can do. And a pro tip for this, once you hit the metal door, just run to the other side of the hallway, stand in the middle, and that way you have both sides of you, which is again insane. The last one is honestly the whole bottom area. I'm gonna count it as one loop. They kind of all just connect to each other, but the amount of single doors that are literally there alone, I think it's like anywhere from like 6 to 8 single doors. You'll never run out of stamina there. It's just such an insane room. Next is the forest. I genuinely think this is the most fun map and the most balanced map. And I know some of you guys are gonna look at me crazy, because I also know a lot of people hate this map on both sides, as survivor and killer, but I feel like that just kind of shows that the map is kind of balanced in its own way, I guess. I just don't think that a lot of people know this map that well. But to get to the point, this map has about 5 good loops, and they're all pretty strong. The first one is the fence loop. This is probably the weakest loop out of all the ones I'm gonna mention, just because this area is really clunky. If you're versing a Nard or Springtrap, they can't hit their ranged attack on you here through the fence, which is, yeah, it's whatever. Next is the electrical tire loop. This loop becomes a lot stronger once you realize you can cut through the middle, and it's not that obvious unless you have the hitboxes turned on. But yeah, just be careful again. I think killers can hit the ranged attacks through and even on you here, so again, be careful. The third one is the ramp loop. This room is low-key at that end, but you just want to barricade the door. Once the killer hits it once, you go up the ramp, and then make sure that the killer is chasing you up the ramp before you drop. and then you barricade the door on the other side of him again. Or as soon as he hits the barricade once, you can just run through him to a different loop. It's a pretty strong room in my opinion. Fourth, there's that tunnel loop that leads into a room with another door. You just want to do the barricade strategy where as soon as he hits it once, you run to the other door, and then after he hits that door as well, you just circle back all the way to the tunnel door. Yeah, overall pretty simple. The last one is the central loop. I think it's the funnest, but it's also the most broken loop because there's 3 doors. You can just break ankles so easily. And then if you're versing like Springtrap or Nard, once they start putting their spring traps or eyeballs, whatever it's called, down, you can just run across the fence area and use that loop, or just go to a different loop, right? The third map is the warehouse. I think this is probably my least favorite map for survivors, just because I feel like there's just way too many areas that are kind of just dead space. I think the biggest example is probably the transition between the industrial into the warehouse, that hallway where there's like that wooden ramp. I really don't think that area is that great for looping, and I feel like it's just one of those hallways where you're just gambling to see if you're gonna make it past the killer. Anyways, the first hallway loop is this one right here. Pretty decent, just make sure you don't get grabbed or hatcheted. And the other hallway is, honestly, it's below decent, but you know, can't ever complain about a free loop, right? Or free fence. Moving on is the factory, the industrial looking area loop. Has 3 single doors. That's pretty great. Just cycle them through. It's like a big square. Next is the security room loop. This is basically the same as the factory loop, just on the other side. It also has 3 single doors and also leads into the hallways if you want to just use that after all 3 doors are broken. So yeah, pretty strong loop here as well. Then I think one of my favorite loops, but I think this one takes probably the most skill, is the square loop right next to the exit gate. There's just so much potential in this loop with the mental aspects. I feel like it's a pretty good way to just throw killers and, you know, mind game them, right? Unless you're Mimic, you have that one move that kind of just let you leap anywhere. That kind of breaks this loop completely. So if you're versing Mimic, be careful. But yeah, those are all the good loops in this map. If you use even one of these loops, any of these maps, I think you'll be alright. I hope you win more games, and I'll see you on the next upload, I guess.